At the end of the day, it's not about what you have or even what you've accomplished. It's about what you've done with those accomplishments. It's about who you've lifted up, who you've made better. It's about what you've given back. Denzel Washington. Welcome to Inspire Vision. Our sole purpose is to elevate the lives of others and to inspire you to do the same.
Valdas, welcome to the show.
Hello, hello. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Very nice to talk with you. And let's have a chat. Let's have a nice conversation.
I'm looking forward to it. So where are you located?
Currently, I'm in Greece, but I live in Estonia. This is a little country in Northern Europe near Finland. And that's where I live all the time.
Okay, sounds good. So what I have found is very interesting is the story behind an individual's reaching and their journey and why they've come to the point that they are. So here you are doing all sorts of things to help people. I'd love for you to share with the audience what your journey is, what your story was, and how you reached this point in your life doing what you're doing.
Oh, that's a very long journey. The journey started when I was 19. So it's 33 years ago now, I think, or 34 years ago. And I've started, of course, with the problem that I had, and this was eczema. And I had to heal it. I was looking for healing eczema, healing my problems. And medicine, conventional medicine, just simply couldn't help anymore. So I had to find alternative methods how to heal. And this actually started me on the journey. I started looking for something that could heal me. So I met a spiritual teacher. I learned everything about the energy, about meditation. I started feeling energy myself. I was meditating every day. And it was in the 90s. I never knew anything about yoga or anything about energy because we didn't even have smartphones or mobile phones. All we have were books. So when I started on this journey, Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation, I started healing myself slowly. I stopped all the bad habits, cigarettes and all kind of alcohols and everything, and set myself on the journey. And this journey never stopped now already for the last 33 years, where I mastered this Reiki system. And then I studied traditional Chinese medicine and shiatsu therapy. That was 3-year course. And then I joined martial arts group, and I was lucky to meet the teacher who was still teaching traditional martial arts in Japan. This was ninjutsu, nimpo. So, and the journey never stopped. Like meditation every day, understanding myself deeper every day, and constantly tapping into myself, into my inner world. And in about 11 years now, I discovered something very sacred within me, and that was Creator's presence within myself. And this completely changed my life one more time. This brought me to be in the now all the time, understand myself much deeper, feel and sense the eternity, and also feeling of my belonging to this entire universal universe. Okay. And but what happened also, I didn't go somewhere else in the heavens or skies. I'd rather starting living normal human life, enjoying being on this planet, having normal conversations, having logic in place, and at the same time sensing and feeling much more than probably every ordinary human being. So about 5 years ago now, I decided that I want to go and share this knowledge and share all this experience with people online. And I created a program and started actually teaching people and started guiding people towards themselves. So in short, this would be my journey. And just to say that it was always all about energy, meditation, prayer, healing, and going deep into myself. And the more I went deep into me, the more the world opened up to me. And here I am today talking to you.
Well, and you know, I just finished writing a blog and talking about the diamond within each one of us, and I have found I think one of the biggest challenges, and I think this is what you're talking about. One of the biggest challenges is for us to understand that spiritual nature of who we really are, the goodness within us, and I think in many cases the whole challenge of life can be to start to unveil that and actually take off those layers of onions till you can get to the very true essence of who we are. I know that you talk a little bit about something called spiritual misalignment. Can you share a little bit with the audience what you mean by that?
Yeah, you are totally right. As a people, we are already that spiritual beings. We are already spiritual beings. But the problem is in that what people call ego or lower ego, I would say, because the ego does not disappear altogether. We will always have ego. But the lower ego, this illusionary part of ours, it's called that way, but in fact, this is our animal nature. This is our survival mechanisms. This is our survival, basically. So when you live in survival, you always look at things from fear standpoint, and you're looking for always to be safe. You're looking for safety, basically. So what actually, how to put it into the words? The journey for every human being should be going deeper inside, finding that true part of selves who is peaceful, who is constantly calm, who is constantly relaxed, and start living from there. And of course, the obstacle and that whale that you call is that illusionary part of us, which is constantly wanting to be safe. And all the emotions, basically, it's like a protection for that part of us, protection for ourselves, where we try to hide ourselves behind these emotions, behind all kind of labels, stereotyping, and all kind of aspects that belong to that part in us which is trying to be safe. Of course, people call it ego, as I said, or illusionary part of ours. But in essence, that's an illusionary part, because when you cut through that illusion, then you go to reality.
Well, and as you talk about ego, and you know, I've read some interesting books that talk about that. I think part of the interesting aspect of that is our ego causes us to want things. We want to be the best. We want to have this. We want to have that. And we feel like when we look at that negative aspect of an ego, is like we're trying to prove ourselves to ourselves and maybe to others. And when that happens, that brings about, and as you mentioned at the very beginning, that brings about some suffering. That brings about an element in our lives that really prevents us from enjoying that peace and that joy in our lives. And how have you found you are able to help people start to set aside the ego and start to really get to the point where they're able to enjoy life in spite of all the things that happen? And there are a lot of things that happen that could cause grief and sorrow and frustration. How do you help people to get to the point where, as those things just happen, that they still are able to bypass that and not be affected deeply by it?
See, again, going back to the same nature, if I would be talking about the ego side, people want, and people want things, and that's normal, that's natural. You see, even people who get awakened or people who get enlightened, they still want things. They still want good for all. They still want peace. They still want to live life. Everybody wants something or needs something, and that's natural. But you see, the intention matters here. It depends on what intention do you have about it. So if you want things just for yourself to feel safe, say, for example, you want to make certain income, you want to make money, your intention is selfish. You want it for you because you feel you're going to be safer. But that's an illusionary safety. That's an illusionary safety, because you don't need anything to feel safe. You can feel safe without that too. So I think intention is one thing that sets people apart. But when your intention is good, for example, when you want even some income, so you would be, so you would be able to help other people. So you would not be suffering in a way, or wanting things or desiring things from that perspective. That's when this one thing becomes completely different. That's when this one thing becomes from the good of all. But also, I would want to talk about and touch the state of being, because people want from the lack. They feel lack. They want something because they feel lack inside. They want to fill that lack. And then they try to reach certain goals to fill that hole, to fill that lack. But there is another state of mind where you have everything, or you can create that state of mind where you complete, where you whole, where you full, when you don't need anything, where you don't want anything. But what happens then? When you are whole inside, then you begin attracting that what you need, or you begin attracting that what your being actually wants.
Well,
If I'm
so
explaining this correctly.
you talk about lack, and that is something that oftentimes is just innately within people. But how does that lack get embedded in our minds, in our souls, to where we always feel that lack? Have you been able to identify, is it something that's just naturally there? Is it something that's imprinted by society, by family, by external aspects? What has been your experience as far as what causes that sense of lack, number one? And then if someone is really experiencing that lack, how do they overcome it? How do they get to the point where, and for me, I love the words, I have sufficient for my needs. And, that can be just very comfortable. But how have you found you've been able to help people overcome this sense of lack?
You see, lack is all about conditioning. Child, from the very childhood, like just a baby or just a young person who already begins to understand what's happening around. For example, parents begin telling that if you're going to be a good boy or a good girl, you're going to get this. Or if you are not going to be a good boy or not going to be a good girl, I'm not going to love you. Okay? So this is conditioning, basically. So young person, young baby, young child immediately begins to understand that he needs to deserve love, that he needs to buy love from mother or from father, that he needs to do something to get that love, to get that attention. Okay? So imagine then you grow up, and then you, with this kind of belief, you begin thinking that you need to work hard to get something. You need to reach your goals to be good in the society. You need to be a very good person, educated, intellectual, and so on, so people would love you. Okay? That's where the lack stems from. It's all conditioning. Basically, we tell the story to ourselves that we have to be good, we have to do something in order to receive something. Even people, for example, who set themselves on the spiritual journey, they also running away from something, and they also running away from lack, and they believe that if they are spiritual, if they will get awakened, or if they will get enlightened, their life will change and they will be better, they will be good. Okay? While in fact, what we are looking is for the feeling of being fulfilled, for the feeling of being calm, peaceful, relaxed. But this feeling has to be created first. And nothing from the outside will be able to create this feeling. Nothing what you get, $1 million enlightenment or awakening or another partner or beautiful car or something else will ever be able to satisfy this inner hole, this inner thing that is actually lacking within you. You have to dive deep inside. You have to reprogram your subconscious mind. You have to find peace within and be whole to begin attracting things. And when you ask, how can I help people to get rid of this lack? first of all, people have to understand that they suffer not from what's happening in the world, but they really suffer from their own thoughts and from their own perceptions about that reality that is around us. Okay? So when mother was saying that, hey, if you're going to be a good girl or good boy, then I'm going to love you, she didn't mean that you have to do something to deserve my love. She was simply trying to educate you. She was simply trying to do her best so you would be kind of controlling yourself or controlling your behavior. But she didn't mean that you have to do something to love. She loved you all anyway, already. But we have interpreted in our brain, in our mind, that we need to do something in order to get that what we want in life. And with this belief, with this intention, walking through life, you get lack inside of you, and you're constantly striving and trying to achieve something that does not give you any satisfaction, even if you achieve it. It's like monkey, you chase the monkeys, you catch one, and the other one begins running.
Well, and
So that's how
what
I see it all.
okay, I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. What I find
Mhm.
fascinating, and I liked how you were talking about running from rather than running toward. And you even mentioned, which I find fascinating, is that many people who get on this journey of meditation, of all of those type of things, if their mindset is that they're running from rather than running toward, that changes the whole outcome of the meditation process, doesn't it?
Exactly, exactly. You see, the real spiritual journey, well, if I can say this word, real spiritual journey, real spiritual journey, if you look at the Bhagavad Gita, if you look at many other spiritual sources, it's not about trying to reach something. It's not about trying to achieve something, but initially to be happy inside. And this happiness can be reached by simply being, by going into the being, by simply being that person already. So when I was meditating myself, in the beginning, I was trying to seek enlightenment, trying to reach some kind of nirvana or some kind of an enlightenment stage. But then, when you keep going, and when you keep and keep and keep going, one day you realize that no, I'm not going to reach anything. I just simply enjoy what I do. I simply get a big satisfaction and big joy or big bliss just from this moment when I close my eyes and I connect to myself and I go deep inside me and I simply being in this beautiful energy. And that's what I was looking for. I don't need something from the outside. I don't need something else. Already the process itself, already the bliss that I'm receiving at that moment is that reward, is that state of mind that I was looking for.
Well, and
And
you
then when you
you
go deeper,
yeah, go ahead,
mhm,
keep going.
just let me finish. Then when
Yeah.
you go deeper, when you connect to your soul, or when you create your soul, because soul is a growing substance which grows out of your experience, out of your spiritual experience. When you connect to the soul, when you start living from that level, then all your life suddenly becomes flowing, blissful, and happy. And then further, when you go and discover creator's particle within, which actually lives within each and every one of us, then you begin connected through the soul, begin being connected to the source, and then your life completely starts falling into something totally different out of this world experience, because everything is aligned and nothing triggers you, nothing bothers you, because you become this walking piece of light which already sufficient in himself or herself.
Well, and it's interesting. As I mentioned, I'm here in Thailand, and I've been fascinated by the Buddhist culture, and particularly just studying a little bit about Buddha and his teachings. And he talks about suffering, and he talks about and his whole philosophy is one of reaching that level of no longer suffering. And I think that's an interesting concept that although we still experience junk in our lives, things happen and we can't avoid that. But at the same time, as you're talking about it, how you can be in a mindset and as you say, a spiritual aspect to the point when these things happen, they no longer cause that reactive sense of suffering, but rather acceptance and yet still enjoying that sense of peace, enjoying your life.
Exactly. So you see, yes, the suffering comes. Suffering comes from reactions, again, from the same fear. So when you get to the other side, when you awaken, or when you get that more of that light within you, I don't call it enlightenment, because enlightenment is when your soul is completely in front of your being and you live out of that. Because we still sometimes choose to live out of fear or sometimes out of love. Okay, and when you are still in between of that, you still have some worries sometimes some fears coming out. But when you completely transition into that spiritual side of things, then these things simply disappear. But what Buddha meant when he was speaking, what Buddha meant when he was speaking about the suffering, is of course about that reactiveness, about sadness, about worry, about fear, about those emotions that stems from our lower mind. See? Because if something happens to me, I see it as a feedback of my own internal world. But if something happens to the person who is still sleeping in his spiritual, according to the spirituality, so he believes that, oh, maybe it's a bad fate, or why these things are happening to me? What did I do? What bad karma did I have, or something like this? While for me, I know that if my vibration lowered up and I started worrying about something, or I lowered my vibration in any way, then anything that happens, it's simply a reflection of who I am at that moment inside of me, nothing else. So I don't need to suffer. I simply navigate away from that. I sit down, I breathe in, I relax, I calm down, and I continue my life, not looking at it as suffering. Or someone suffering, for example, that no one loves them, or someone suffers that they have a low self-esteem because they believe that people do not value them, or someone suffers from rejection because they believe that people are rejecting them. Okay, people suffer from their own thoughts. They do not suffer from the world, from other people. They suffer exactly from what they think is happening. So when you stop the thinking processes, when you start seeing your mind from the outside, when you stop reacting to what this mind begins or tries to tell you, and you take this nature, you tame this nature, and you make this lower nature your friend rather than someone that runs your life or runs the ship, that's when you create transformation. That's when you begin seeing things as a feedback, and that's when this lower mind becomes an instrument for you and becomes transformed. It's no longer fearful, it's no longer worrying. It's just simply giving you feedback, giving you the map how you can navigate your life rather than run into the rocks and then react to what's happening, or create a conflict and then recover from the conflict. It rather teaches you or allows you to navigate your life the way so you wouldn't ever even encounter all those things in your life.
And we're talking philosophically here to some degree, but here's a question I always love to ask and really get to this point is how can you help people to really align their spiritual purpose while they're going through the demands of life? And how do they do that? I mean, we talk about this is what you need to do and how and so on and so forth, but how do you take someone
Yeah.
who's called you, Valdas, and said, hey, I need your help, and how do you take them from wherever they're at to the point where they really can get that in alignment step by step?
Yeah, it's simple. I would tell that it's simple. First of all, human being has to understand who he is, what he is doing here on this planet, where he is coming from. When person gets answers to this question, then he stops questioning. My teacher used to say all the time, when the questions end, that's when the answers begin. So when we live, we want our questions answered. And that's natural, that's normal. So when I take person on the journey and when I go with them through the program, first of all, I explain who he is. Because know thyself is the first thing that person has to understand. So when person know who he is, what he is doing here in this world, that he just simply here to get an experience, where he is coming from, where he is going to, what is the human mind, what is the lower human mind, and how the higher human mind works, what are those principles or, say, intentions or rules that spiritual realm is being run on. When human being understands all these things, he no longer has any questions. And then he begins integrating those things into everyday life. Because many people sit down into meditation, they sit for whatever, 1 hour, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, it doesn't matter. And then they stand up from meditation and say, okay, now I live my life. This was life where I was meditating, and now I begin to live my life. And then they just live life, whatever. Then they come back again, they sit in meditation, they meditate, and they think, okay, now I'm meditated. And now again, let me live my life. So there is a segmentation. There is a thing, there's a segmentation happens. This time is for God, this time is for me. And again, this time for God, and this time for me. But when you really get onto this journey, you begin integrating these spiritual principles and spiritual laws into your life all the time. You never stop meditating. But it doesn't mean you walk in this kind of trance and everybody thinks that you're on the mushrooms or on the drugs because you are calm and peaceful and relaxed. No, you act like a human being. Everything is cool. Everything is normal. You do ordinary things, but you have certain principles. You do not argue. You don't get into arguments. You just simply let things go. Or you don't even attract these arguments because your being does not attract that anymore. Unless something that is inside of you is not sorted out, not transformed, and need to be transformed, and then you attract someone who indicates to you that you didn't sort that side of you yet. So then you begin looking where you are imperfect yet. What are your problems? You're not waiting until life tells you that, but you are searching for it. You are asking qualified people who know, who can see you. What else is not sorted within me? What else am I doing wrong? And when you get that feedback, it's not criticism, by the way, it's a feedback. Criticism is when you are in your lower mind. Feedback is when you are in your higher mind. So when you get all these things, when you understand all of it, when you begin searching how to perfect yourself even deeper and integrate your life, integrate spirituality into your life, or integrate those higher being things into your life, when you're completely relaxed, when you're connecting to source, connecting to life, that's when you become that human being. If you know what I mean, if you understand what I'm saying. So it's basically not really doing anything. It's basically not really just this is for God, this is for me, but this is always living an integrated life. That's how I would answer this question.
You use the word spirituality, and I think that for many people, that can have an entirely different meaning based on their perception. You mentioned, for instance, I had an experience just the other week. A friend of mine has a son that really had some questions of a spiritual nature, and for some reason he asked his teacher, and his teacher basically said, you know what, you were born in sin, you're naturally sinful, that type of thing. And obviously I tried to make a change in that, but but religion, philosophies, there's a lot of things there. As you think about spiritual, a lot of people have that background of different types of religions, whatever it is, that they think, okay, that's what you're talking about. What is your definition of spirituality?
Okay, that's a good question. That's a very good question. My definition of spirituality, um, I would say this is a journey. Spirituality, I would call, you see, probably we use this word to describe something that we do not understand yet, or something like a journey towards ourselves, like a spiritual journey. Because you see, we are human beings, we have this body, but then we have a soul which is growing substance. Then the soul is going to be our form, and finally the spiritual part is going to be our form. But when you take a being who we truly really are, we are already a spiritual being, having the experience of human being, having this human body as a form to express ourselves, to communicate with everyone, to everybody. Okay, so this is the form for the spiritual being who we already are, to communicate, to get an experience of this world, what it is to be this mortal being. Okay, that's why probably people use this word spirituality. But what I mean by spirituality, it's a process. Spirituality, it's a process of getting back to yourself, to your roots, to who you truly really are, and start living from there. And this is a journey, because journey meaning that you have to control your mind. You have to calm down your mind. You have to be able to observe your thoughts, to make your mind completely empty. So the soul's mind would expand and would actually open up into your mind. So you would start living from the soul's mind. And then when that happens, that's already you half leg into, into who you are. You begin living from completely different perception, because your mind begins seeing everything as one integrated thing. It can see the reasons why this moment is happening. It can see this moment. It can see the consequences all in one. It can see what will happen in the future if you will continue walking the path or the way you live right now. It can see why this particular moment is happening, what kind of thoughts, what kind of reasoning, what kind of energy and feeling created this moment for you. So you begin seeing everything in an integrated way. So I would say definition of spirituality is just getting back to yourself, getting closer to yourself. Then you see dead people, you can see other people's thoughts, you can see other people's deepest dreams. You can see everything, basically. Everything is open for you. Because you no longer judge. You no longer judge anyone. You simply see things. You simply don't take, how to say, you don't stop the moment. You allow everything to be and speak to you.
Well, and one of the things that comes to my mind, and you've talked a little bit about it, is you've talked about energy. You've talked, and I look at behavior, and you talk about becoming and truly being who you are. Do you find that for people to kind of figure out where am I on this path to deeper spirituality and truly becoming, is to kind of look at, number one, what experiences are we attracting in our life? What energy are we giving out that brings back this similar energy that may be positive, or it may not be positive? And as we look at our behaviors, we look at our reactions, are they truly reflective of the level of deep spirituality that we've achieved? So if we find that we're still getting frustrated, we're still getting angry, all of this type of thing, or we're still attracting people or things into our lives that are negative and not really what we desire, do you find that that's kind of the indication that we're just not where we want to be yet, as far as that depth of spirituality and becoming who we really are?
You see, it's a very good question. See, people often do not like to hear the truth. People often do not like to hear the truth. When I remember myself, I'll start from the example. I remember myself. I was meditating. I had a teacher, spiritual teacher, and I was with him already for 2 years, I think. And now, I was doing everything possible that I would be a good boy and try to meditate. Not try, but I was meditating every day, doing the energy exercises and so on. And one day I came to my teacher and I said, "Teacher, what is the color of my aura?" He looked at me and he says, "Dirty orange." I was like, I was doing so much work, I was doing so much energy things, and what is just a dirty orange color? So bad, This was my reaction. Okay. So look, when you really transition into that spiritual side, and this is a scale of things, of course, and you can indicate, and some people try to indicate where you are, at what kind of stage you are. So I would say the acceptance of the truth is key. How much you are able to, I already mentioned in this podcast a little bit before, but how much you are able to accept, how much you are able to accept the truth about yourself, about life, how much you are able to be honest and completely sincere of where you are. Because in the beginning, of course, life reflects who you are to you. But if you react and try to resist that, of course, this is not a great level because you're still resisting, yeah? But when you reflect and you begin paying attention, this is already something else. You begin already listening. Then the next level, when you search for what is bad in your being, what is wrong in your being. And the next level, when you begin already designing your life, creating your life, when you look at how do you feel at every single moment, because you know that of your feeling, of your energy levels depends of what kind of life you are going to unfold for yourself, open up for yourself. So you see the stages where you react, where you reflect, and then where you begin paying attention to all of that, and the next stage when you begin creating your life. So you see, this is a journey, this is a gradation. And then how much are you able to accept through? When someone said, to you, "Oh, you are bastard, you are such a bad person, you are wrong, you are bad," and so on. But when I know myself better than someone who tells me who I am, there is no reaction from my side. I only see that this person is talking about himself or reflecting himself towards me, rather than telling something about me. He tells me about his own or her own filters of how he sees reality, rather than telling something about me. You see?
Oh, and that is so true. I've taught my children that very principle. When someone is talking to you in a way that seems to be affecting you, what they really need to do is just hold a mirror up in front of them because they're really reflecting who they are, and it has
Yeah.
no real indication of who you are. And so I love that concept. So, how do people find you if they're seeking to talk to you to get some help from you?
Well, it's simple. I have a website, and the website is valdas.ee. Very simple, valdas.ee. Or simply find me on Facebook, Valdas Pranskos.
Okay, so VALDAS dot ET?
E-E. E-E.
ET. Okay. And
No, no,
then,
no, no. Just E, two E letters.
oh,
Echo, echo.
EE. Okay.
Exactly. Valdas.ee.
Valdas.EE. All right.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Valdas.echo, echo. Yeah. That's my website. And from there you can find the links towards my Facebook and LinkedIn account and also Instagram. I'm everywhere on the social media, so I can be found easily that way.
Okay, great. And if you had a final message that you wanted to share with the audience, what would that be?
Well, my final message would be please start going deeper within yourselves. Begin finding yourself, finding that true aspect of you, who you truly really are, to stop that suffering. Because suffering is only in your mind. There is not in this world. There is not because of other people are approaching you and creating suffering for you. But the suffering is in your reactions, in your being, who you really are right now at this particular moment. So to stop suffering, go deeper inside of you. Discover that peace within you. Relax your mind. Relax your being. Spend time with you to really find that place and begin living from that place. That way, you will create better living for every one of us in this beautiful planet, because there will be less of those people who suffer. You will be one of those who will be bringing light inside you and bringing that light to every one of us in this world. And the more of us will be emanating that light from within to this world, emanating love and goodness and this wonderful state of mind, the quicker the wars and sufferings and all of these disasters will end.
Ah,
So
wonderful.
this would be the message.
Well, thank you. And Valdes, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful conversation, and you've made such interesting points. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. And
Thank you.
folks, thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this. We look forward to having you join us again soon. So this is Dr. Doug saying namaste.